I am. Okay. Um, so then, because there's short time, right? At 10:30, you have your next meeting.
I mean, at 10, but if I'm late and come at 10:20, it's okay.
Okay. Okay. So maybe we can focus on then what you think is most important to share. I mean, I have questions around your activities where you kind of expected change to happen, and then did kind of what level of impact you see your activities. Because I have project reports, and I prefer to focus then on maybe what's not there or what.
Yes, I think Parker would be the most useful
Do you,
research.
yeah, maybe do you want to just share a general reflection on what you've been doing and thoughts, and from there we can just.
Okay, I will
I've read the project document, so I know about the projects you've done. So
I can start because I will probably be briefer than Arcar and follow up. So I think generally the project documents, you know that some parts of the previous project that focus on interfaith dialogue as well. Um, the theory of change has been quite ambitious, let's say, and actually working with religious leaders was the most problematic part, and this is what I hope Arcar will talk more about. Because in Rakhine it has been particularly challenging, but not only in Rakhine. It has been an experience that this was the most challenging part of the project overall, which doesn't mean, like, I'm not trying to say that this was the part that shouldn't have been there. It just means that I think what you're doing is very useful, because maybe then as a community we can have a dialogue on what's really working and how to approach this, because it's definitely sure that we need to try to approach it. The question is just how to do it most effectively and within different regional context and taking into account all the nuances. Like, I think the research on Mabata that was presented, this is very useful as well. Not only for us, but also to show to the donors how nuanced it is and how we cannot just have one size fit all solution. How we really need to work, how it takes time basically to try to build trust with those actors, and that we shouldn't straight away say, we cannot work with them, because I think this is not the way to go. But if we decide to work with them, we need to make sure we basically do not have the do no harm approach and don't try to 1 year, which sometimes has like to be, this is between us, but has been issue with our programming in a way.
The timelines.
Yes, it's how can you expect a behavioral change within 1 year, 1.5 years, and sometimes we're forced into this by, let's say, the donor approach, or we're part of the problem but we're not. It's like a vicious circle in a way. We make very ambitious goals because we're expected to, but then it's sort of, and maybe if we as a community have a stronger front on how nuanced it is, then I think from our experience would be that the space is shrinking definitely, and I think going back to what you said at the beginning, the different terminologies and typologies we use, sometimes I think it's sort of us like being pushed back to the wall, trying to come up with terminology that wouldn't be tainted in a way. Let's say I'm of course using the that we cannot say. To give you an example, with our peace education curriculum that we've been working on over the last few months, even though it was piloted in Caen, which technically could be considered a much easier space to work in than, for example, Rakhine. So we had a lot of pushback from the authorities at the beginning, and we had to find coping strategies. And we were explicitly told at the beginning of the project that in this curriculum we're not allowed to refer to peace or religion or ethnicity, because if we try to talk about those things, then it will create, if we talk about peace, it will create more conflict. If we talk about religion, people become more worried. That was the argument from the authorities, which meant that, for example, our baseline was cancelled, and because it had reference to
Right.
even though we really try to be conflict sensitive. So I think the space generally is shrinking. That would be my. So now.
We also organize a dialogue session, and then different religion. And in Rakhine, one of the problem is it's a little different to invite, for example, maybe Muslim, maybe some Rohingya participant in the downtown. So some they cannot come to in the downtown and they cannot participate. And some the different ethnic like the Rakhine, Hindu, Brahmaji, and some that they can come, they can join us. What we did is we those villages, I mean those Muslim village and maybe Kaman village and Rohingya village, they cannot come to the downtown. So we go there to organize some we call him like a networking meeting. But the idea is to make a space or maybe like a networking between different ethnic, I mean, especially youth and women. For example, we have three different townships like Tidong, Menya, and Sitwe. We bring our working group leader from those top three townships and then make like a small networking session in Taman village. So at the same time, the Rohingya, maybe the Rohingya they also join us. They can also join because those villages are close. Yeah, one of the best experience I always remember is like at this time during the networking session we didn't discuss about peace, we didn't say religion, we didn't say we say nothing special.
In these dialogue activities.
Not exactly.
In this networking.
Other than we just play together. I mean play Rakhine, Muslim, Rohingya, and Hindu, especially youth and women, they play together. And during the lunchtime, they cook the lunch together, and then they eat the lunch together.
Yeah, I think this is what because Arcar wasn't there during the last ESF meeting that I told you book was launched. I mean not launched, but presented because they were in the field. But I think what we have found in our programming was something that was mentioned during the meeting as well. That's those everyday activities really make a difference. But sometimes what we have found in our current project, there's a huge dissonance between, and I know I keep coming to the donors, but I really think that sometimes those the evaluation can be a very useful document for donors to reflect as well. And I have unfortunately felt, or we have unfortunately felt that sometimes they don't recognize the value of those everyday events, which is actually how you create, how you promote cohesion. It's, I think Arthur is talking about that actually the value of this session also because it wasn't something very structured, it was sort of bottom up, right?
Yeah, I know one more problem is, those people, especially, those people in conflict area, originally they also is, they also sensitive to those who are like peace or maybe conflict, religion. So, it's also a little dangerous to say like those kind of words to those people and to let them discuss about those issues.
For their protection as well.
Yeah. So, maybe social cohesion, maybe as my individual, social cohesion or maybe peace within some areas, but I'm not to say a lot of sensitive work. Just, like example, just cooking together and just eating the lunch together. This is just for example. This is what we did in the last project. And one more problem is, after that I mentioned about this. Sometimes, those people, especially in a grassroots level,
Yeah.
They have no high rational thinking. I mean, they are some are not educated very well.
Yeah.
Or
So-
not at all, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talking about maybe like education or maybe providing training about peace and um, conflict and how to solve conflict, blah blah blah, maybe like that. So especially it is really high important.
Right.
So or sometimes it is hard for them. It is hard to understand for them. So um,
It's abstract, right?
yeah, that's absurd. And one more, I have one more experience from Kayin. Now we just finished. We are just providing small grant to some villages and school for social cohesion, to do social cohesion activity. Yeah. They just organize some sport between different village. Maybe some they want to the museum or maybe they want to the shark.
Right.
To learn about different
Yeah, to learn about different.
culture.
Yeah. For example, one village, one school, those villages, all the students are Buddhist, and they went to the shack and Buddhist and a museum. So they can learn by themselves. I mean, they can learn by their own experience, rather than talking about the theoretically about
Yeah,
Buddhism or
participatory experience. Yes. So.
Yeah.
Um,
So for one of the village, I mean not only one of the village, for some village they organize football match. But as mentioned, it's really hard to sell from donor side because we are using those money to play football. But as my experience and as our understanding, those people are playing football between different ethnic group, different religious group. For example, one
this is
village
already
is
an achievement for us, but for
one village is it's like a Christian.
Yeah.
They invite the another two other village is like Hindu, another one village is Muslim village for a football match.
Yeah.
And then we already let them know, to manage the sport. I mean, the whole project very well. I mean, not to have any problem. Yeah, they understand about it. They can organize by themselves very well. There is no special problem. So together. One of the final during our FGD discussion is like another guy from
yeah, because we actually
one village.
just to give you, so we
Yeah.
we are just in the sort of as I mentioned, we weren't allowed to do baseline at the beginning of the ongoing project. So we had to find alternative ways of, so some part of the M&E was sort of weaved into project activities as well, because we had to find clever ways of dealing with it. And at the moment we're conducting evaluation, but also we're not allowed to do endline. So we're doing sort of, focus group discussions and other alternative ways of data collection. So we have been in the field recently, and now we are looking at the results, but they're not yet shareable and we will have an evaluator coming soon as well. Actually, a lot of interesting discussions that we had with the teachers, because our current project focuses on teachers, community leaders, and students at the same time. And we have found actually like one of the, I think it's very useful, though very difficult to do programming in schools. To give you and I will you will get back to your point. I will forget if I don't mention it now. In schools where there is a lot of ethnic and religious diversity, we have really heard from teachers that bullying was a huge problem, and it seems that with the efforts that we have done together with local partners, it has actually decreased. So our curriculum has been most useful in the places where there's diverse ethnic and religious groups in the schools. But of course, at the same time, we already long term there would have to be a lot of follow up, and this is one of the recommendations I think for interfaith programming. It's really, you cannot just do one training and yes, you might have some immediate results, but I think you really need to invest time.
Yeah.
And go back to the communities that you're working with.
Just to understand that peace curriculum, the teachers implemented, like you trained the teachers and they did like peace education.
So
like, with the
so there
students,
were
or-
different levels.
and then-
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
We interrupted you.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
So maybe you can.
And then we can.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about
Yeah, one of the
the
findings.
football and the focus group discussion finding.
Yeah, I would like to share one of my findings. Maybe especially there are one of so many findings, but I would like to share this one. You know about the sport. When we are going to organize FG session, one of the villages said that firstly, in the past, you know, for example, they play football. Maybe if they play football between different villages, they didn't encourage. I mean, they didn't support one or another village's school. I mean, to their village, they didn't support maybe.
Score? Did you say score or to go?
I mean, it's to go.
To go.
You mean support financially or?
No, support. I mean, like a
Like
state
more, like-
competition,
okay.
supporting. But now they also support another village,
Like different
Yeah.
race or no?
like
I think a
different race
religion.
and religion.
That was an outcome, like something that was successful. You mean? So through the programming, you did the football before. They wouldn't have come, but now they would come.
Yeah.
What do you think? What was the change? Why do they now choose to support them coming? So before, if I understood correctly, that they didn't come from a different village.
Because
They
they
would
don't
come to
see the value of cooperation. I think
Before, it's very rare to come
yeah.
together.
together.
Like, even sometimes even from, and that's one of the findings from the previous evaluation, that intra-faith is sometimes equally important as.
Hi.
This is Jaume, our operation. This is Irina. Do you need this room or?
No, just looking for better.
Ah.
Nice to meet you, Irina. Visiting.
Irina is doing the.
Research on interfaith peace building programming. What's effective, what not? How can we reflect and learn from successes, challenges?
Interesting stuff, much more than what I'm doing. Anyway, I need to miss and to leave.
No, Peter, unless he's been hiding in the bathroom for the last 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, I will join.
Finding the focus groups, they wouldn't. So before, sorry, do you mean just the villages wouldn't interact normally, and
Yes,
the football match kind of gave them a reason to come
Yes.
together in there? Okay.
And long term, like, and sometimes also within the communities themselves. So what we heard a lot from, not from FGDs, but from key informant interviews with village leaders, for example. Sometimes you know, even if you focus on peace building, or of course you're venturing into other areas. So in the areas where we work, for example, drug usage is a huge problem, especially for young people. And this is something that we heard over and over and over again.
Right.
So a lot of the communities which we supported with small grants to conduct their own peaceful coexistence activities, one of the things that they wanted to focus on is actually drug prevention. Because this is the needs that they have identified as the community, and this is one of our goals, to actually give them the space to address the problems that they see within communities that sometimes, you know, it might not be straight away.
Yeah.
We might not see it straight away as linked to peaceful coexistence, but I think we really need to have sort
Change
of
the
a broad,
concept of it.
yeah. I mean, just be adapted, like flexible and adapt to the community, region needs, township needs, whatever, you know, like you
Yeah.
just don't have the one size fits.
So I'm curious. So you talked about the networking activity and then the football match. So where did those ideas come from? Was it more so the networking? You didn't say, for example, peace and interfaith and the football. You let them do kind of what they thought. I guess you're the partner you're working with. I'm curious. So what you're discussing, some of this donor-driven, and then what you're saying seems to be more like, well, it came from their idea of what they want to do. Can you expand a bit more on your experience of, when it's more bottom up, like when the ideas come from, so like the football match or the, call it just a networking event, like what is your experience of the utility, the usefulness of working with local grassroots bottom-up ideas of what it means to do peace and driven.
Yeah.
Just some of that dynamic, that challenge.
For the networking meeting, I mean networking, because our idea is to let them meet each other and other people uh, come to the downtown.
Right.
So that's why we are bringing our working group leaders from the different townships and making networking session in this village. Yeah, I know. I developed the agenda, and me also. I'm also as a like a thing like how can I say, like philosophically. Sometimes like I also think like that. My idea is maybe my idea also come from some of my experience. It's a kind of situation if we're talking about peace it is really dangerous for them also. At this time is this topic is not a really good issue to discuss between themselves. So
As appropriate because it might put them
yeah.
in danger and might antagonize them straight.
Together with one of our together with one our partner.
With Kinta.
Yeah,
this
Kinta.
was together with Kinta.
We discussed how to organize this, and then we designed an agenda and imposed some activity. And at this time, we are providing grant to those two villages, one common village and another one ranger villages. So the other village, the other working group, Rakhine working group and some Hindu working group, they already organized the grant activity. So we let those working group leader to explain to share their experience to the new working group leader of two
Like
villages.
trickle down that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We let them discuss how to organize, how to do their current activity. So our previous working group leader, from Rakhine village and Hindu, and they share their experience how to organize the current activity to new working group. And then they discuss each other and there's some new working if they have question or maybe if they have and they don't understand something, they ask to another bit or working group leader. And played game, some family came together, and not like a face to face. One session is face to face share. Another one session is one of the previous working group leaders shared his experience in front of the people. Another one session is like maybe consultation. Now the two villages they have a current, so another working group leader they are consultation how to organize what kind of activity they should do, like that.
Right.
And the days lunch together.
Right. And this activity, it was a one-off. So this is one of the activities, right? What do you see as some of the impact then of this networking? Have you followed up as well, or was it a one-off? Have you done it in a few places? Kind of what was the after?
The follow-up was supposed to be later, like the next project with which was unfortunately.
Right.
Actually, I also.
But our turn has been following up, like we try to still check on the communities. So.
Some of our findings, we are friends on Facebook. Social network, those working group leader. Firstly, sometimes they used to share like some HP posts, or maybe in Rakhine.
Right.
And maybe sometimes they also used to write some HP, so they used to share some HP on social media. But after that, they stopped sharing it. But probably just my maybe like observation, and it is hard to approve.
Yeah.
And another thing is when I write back there on April, working group leader now they are becoming like a community leader. The youth leader in their different village. So for example, when we go there and we met with the village leader, so village leaders just met with those leader, maybe a youth leader, now they are organizing all the activity in the village.
Right.
So like that.
Right.
But what we've been trying to do with the current project is sort of to develop methodology to do this as well. That's why in the curriculum that we have developed, part of the curriculum is designing their own project. So in the curriculum we call it Learn and Share Together project, but it can be anything else. So actually the curriculum we want to share as broadly as possible for people to use it. It's not for us to keep.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's so it can also be adapted if people want to.
Right.
But the idea is to first go through the list of topics such as cooperation, identifying needs, and then work on the project which they would think allows them to use those skills, the
Right.
needs and the resources identified in the community outside of the usual, let's say, by resources we also mean human resources.
Yeah.
So people from other communities that maybe normally they wouldn't see as part of their, let's say, still living in the vicinity, but sort of are not allowed to be part of the community because of.
And this is in.
Yes, yeah, but
So that was Corinna. Sorry.
yeah, that was the current project, but it was based on the experiences of the previous projects as well.
Right.
So normally what we do, because it's kind of tricky for the communities to come out. Yes, they are able to identify the needs and the problems in the community, but they
Yeah.
also need a lot of support.
Yeah.
So we would give them examples of the projects that they could do, but we also don't want them to just take, we're gonna do this because it's sort of like an example that we want to use without any reflection. We encourage them to reflect on what are the needs and the problems, and then, but also at the same time, provide them with some examples of activities that they could use, and a lot of support from our own partner side.
Right. That was one. Sorry. That was one project that finished, and then you based on that you
yes,
moved
yes.
forward.
Yes, and to go back to your question about the model that we have been using now, so basically, also because of how short this project has been, we haven't done things as we should have properly done them. So, for example, the curriculum should have been the first step. It should have been developed, and only then we should have started training
Right.
people. But we sort of had to do it simultaneously because of a number of reasons.
Yeah.
Like one of them being the situation in Rakhine and the fact that our project timeline was basically much more limited than we initially envisaged.
Right.
So at the same time as the curriculum was developed, or part of the curriculum was already developed, we have trained, we call them peace building champions, but this is a sort of when we talk to the local authorities or stuff. So this has been really a lot of work on the side of Arkar and other members of our team, like working on translations, and this is one of the recommendations that we have generally really take a lot of time, and I'm sure our translation is still not ideal, and we have been trying to juggle between addressing some issues and including some terminology and something that Arkar talked about already, the level of knowledge from the communities. It's really challenging. And I think it would be good to have what we try to do is sort of come up with like a glossary that would have different different terminologies in English, and then Burmese is easy translation, Burmese is more difficult translation. Shalom has done something like this before, but I think there could be an effort to revise this as a working on interfaith dialogue, and we talked to Angelica from Mo about this as well, since Mo was one of the driving group we could think about doing actually, like so going back to the model, so the curriculum was being taught to those peace building champions by local trainers including from Shalom, who were included in the curriculum design as well. So there was